This poor student was just about to eat his chicken drumstick when the school bully showed up, drawn by the smell. "You still haven't paid the class fee." The poor student looked at him with clear, innocent eyes. "The teacher never said anything about a class fee." The school bully replied, "No problem. The chicken drumstick can count as your class fee." The school bully took the drumstick, walked up to the podium, and used it as a microphone to sing, spraying saliva everywhere. The classmates around applauded and cheered for the school bully, while Wenzi's face instantly turned cold. His mother had saved up a month's wages just to buy him that one chicken drumstick. Thinking of this, Wenzi couldn't sit still any longer. He got up and walked to the podium. The classmates immediately fell silent, not knowing what he was about to do. Wenzi walked up to the school bully, didn't say a word, reached out and gave his shoulder a hard shove, snatched back the drumstick, and took a big bite. The classmates cheered again. This was the first time anyone challenged the school bully. However, Wenzi had just gotten himself into big trouble. As soon as school was out that afternoon, and he stepped out, Wenzi saw the school bully and his gang of 6 waiting across the street, all with fierce expressions. The school bully was spinning 2 iron balls in his hand, as if he was planning to use them against Wenzi. So what should Wenzi do? Let's have Bozy tell us.
Seeing that things were going south, Wenzi turned and ran. He was chased down under the bridge, where another group of delinquent students from the school saw what was happening. Then, a heavy iron ball smashed into Wenzi's head, making his face come into close contact with the ground. Wenzi covered his face and stood up. Although he was poor, at least he had a handsome face. Wenzi was completely surrounded and had no way to escape. Suddenly, someone pushed him down, and that person took the chance to pounce on him like Mount Tai crushing the top. Wenzi quickly rolled to the side. He didn't know how to fight, but he was very good at dodging. He darted around like a monkey, taking the opportunity to slap someone, but then turned around and ran straight into the arms of a muscular guy. Wenzi was picked up entirely, and the school bully knocked on his head. "Weren't you pretty good at running away? Try running away from me again." Wenzi was thrown out and ended up stepping in dog poop. His foot slipped, and he fell headfirst to the ground like a tumbling onion. Laughter filled his ears as they called him a dung beetle. Wenzi was so angry his eyes were about to spit fire. He took off his shoe and slapped it right onto someone's face like a facial mask, causing that person to break down on the spot. Wenzi took the opportunity to run away. Not far away, Dalong, a delinquent teen who was watching the show, thought Wenzi was quite interesting. The next morning, Wenzi came to school injured, only to have Dalong block his way. Wenzi thought he was a helper sent by the school bully. Dalong saw that Wenzi was talented and wanted to recruit him as his underling. Dalong's father was the boss of the Mengxia area, so naturally Dalong was the top dog at school. Wherever he went, people would automatically make way for him. Whenever classmates saw him, they had to bow and call out, "Crown Prince Long." Dalong brought his men to confront the school bully. "I'm here to get revenge for Wenzi. Let me make this clear to you. From now on, anything that concerns Wenzi concerns me. His enemies are my enemies." Wenzi was a bit surprised. No one had ever protected him before, not even his mother. The school bully isn't someone you can mess with so easily. I advise you not to provoke me. I have powerful people backing me too. Among Dalong's men was a fierce fighter known as Monk. He bent down and questioned the school bully. The school bully didn't dare talk back to Monk because this guy could break a person's bones. So the school bully and his 5 friends were dragged up to the rooftop. Dalong told Wenzi to take his revenge for what happened yesterday, but Wenzi hesitated. He still had his mother to take care of and was afraid the school bully would retaliate against her. Monk despised cowards the most. He walked over and warned Wenzi. These words struck a nerve and awakened something in him. Wenzi walked up to the school bully, a single tear rolling down his cheek, his fear slowly turning into anger. Then with a furious roar, he grabbed the school bully and dragged him away with all his might. Because of a single chicken leg, Wenzi stepped into the underworld, spending his days fighting and brawling on the streets. He never imagined that one day he would become so formidable. Wenzi was born without ever seeing his father, and his mother was very weak, which led to him being bullied since childhood. When he went to the amusement park with classmates, he was pushed off the railing. In class, his chair was pulled out from under him, and when answering questions, his pants were pulled down. The first thing that happened every day when he entered the classroom was getting hit by a bucket of water. He didn't even need to shower when he got home, which saved some water. Wenzi often had to transfer schools frequently because he couldn't stand bullying. On his first day at the new school yesterday, the school bully had someone pass him a note that read, "New kid, bring 3,000 yuan after school tomorrow to pay your respects, or you'll wish you were dead." Wenzi just wanted to get through school peacefully, at the very least to earn a high school diploma. He never expected the school bully to push things even further and steal the big chicken leg his mother had scrimped and saved to buy for him. In a fit of anger, Wenzi stepped into the world of gangs and was no longer bullied by others. Although Dalong was the boss, it was Monk who was truly skilled both in mind and body. He was different from the typical gangsters. He had always excelled academically since he was young, able to complete 4 people's exam papers in one sitting, and every year he won the school's championships in essay writing, public speaking, reading, and calligraphy. But after entering high school, Monk lost interest in studying and only wanted to follow Dalong into the underworld. He was even willing to be a lowly errand boy if it meant being part of the gang. Wenzi greatly admired Monk, so he fought fiercely every day, hoping to become as formidable as Monk. After spending so much time together, Wenzi and the other three, led by Brother Long, swore brotherhood before Guanggong, sealed it with a blood oath, and founded the Prince Gang.
If you harbor divided loyalties, may the founder punish you.
Gradually, the timidity disappeared from Wenzi's eyes, and he came home every day with a face full of bruises. That night, his mother waited for him and threw the truancy notice at him. "Are you hanging out with those punks at the temple entrance every day?"
Do you think there's a future in running with them?
Wenzi complained to his mother. "If they weren't looking out for me, I wouldn't be able to survive at school at all." His mother was furious. "You haven't stolen, robbed, or done anything wrong, so why can't you get by?" The family always thought it takes two to tango. If you don't provoke others, why would anyone give you trouble? Wenzi couldn't communicate with his mother. Only when he was with Dalong and the others did he feel the warmth of family. The next day was Wenzi's birthday. His mother didn't even remember, but it was his brothers from the Taizi gang who celebrated with him. The brothers took him to get a new outfit, then went to a nightclub to drink. Wenzi noticed that Monk seemed a bit off. Monk looked unhappy as he watched Dalong hugging a woman. Afterwards, the group went to a bustling part of town. They had prepared a birthday surprise for Wenzi, asking him to go across the street to buy squid soup. They specifically told Wenzi to mention the Miaoku name, so the owner would give him a bigger portion. After Wenzi did as he was told, the shop owner gave him a disdainful look, and a fat man nearby got up and walked into the alley. After Wenzi got the squid soup, the fat man arranged for a group of people to shout threats at him. Wenzi turned and ran, but ended up being hit by a car and thrown into the air, closing his eyes on the spot. Dalong and the others thought something had happened to him and were about to call an ambulance when Wenzi suddenly woke up. His eyes were clear and he had no idea why he was being chased. The group sat at the entrance to a bustling street and the monk told Wenzi, "Right now, this is the temple entrance, Dalong's father's territory. The reason we had you buy squid soup just now was to help you get familiar with the boundaries of each gang's territory." After that, Wenzi was taken to meet Dalong's father. Contrary to what he imagined, the man didn't look fierce or menacing. In fact, he even cooked to entertain his subordinates, not looking like a gangster. However, while they were eating, someone delivered a newspaper. When Dalong's father opened it, Wenzi saw that it contained a piece of a human body. The body part covered the content on the newspaper, so Dalong's father used his chopsticks to move it aside, then continued eating as if nothing had happened. This scene almost made Wenzi spit out his food. And this body part came from Xiaoba's father, who lost more than 200,000 at the temple entrance casino and had no choice but to pay his debt with his own body. Xiaoba couldn't swallow this humiliation, but he also didn't dare to set foot on the temple entrance's turf. So Xiaoba went to prison to find his older brother, asking him to settle the score with Dalong's father after he got out. Wenzi and his group had no idea that danger was quietly approaching. Dalong took Wenzi to a massage parlor to broaden his horizons, instructing the madam to make sure she took good care of him. Wenzi was extremely nervous and didn't like this kind of place, so he let his buddies pick first, which made the madam mock him for a bit.
First time coaxing.
The last girl was left because of a birthmark on her face. Not wanting her to feel awkward, Wenzi took her into the room. The girl got straight to the point as soon as she came in, but Wenzi just wanted to chat.
What's your name? Whatever.
Seeing that she didn't want to talk, Wenzi took out his Walkman and they listened to music together. In the end, when he left, Wenzi hadn't touched her at all. The girl thought he was different and told him her name.
Xiao Lianhua.
In that instant, this girl took up residence in his heart. After Wenzi left, he went to eat, and one of his buddies asked him if the girl with the birthmark was any fun. Wenzi got angry and snapped, "None of your damn business." As soon as he finished speaking, the monk sat down and saw Dalong arguing with his girlfriend, which made him secretly a little happy. However, this scene was also witnessed by Xiao's father. Dalong's girlfriend stormed out of the restaurant in anger, and Xiao's father caught up to her, saying he was sent by Dalong to find her. The girl didn't suspect anything and followed Xiao's father into a small dark room. He took out a small dart, threatened the girl to keep quiet, and in the end, raped her. The next day, when Dalong found out his girlfriend had been raped, he was furious and wanted nothing more than to tear that bastard apart. Xiao's father was tied to a chair, and the monk held a tube of glue, saying, "In a moment, I'll seal your mouth first, then your left eye, left ear, and right ear, and finally bury you in the mountains," Xiao's father cried.
If you do this, how will you explain it to my cousin?
The monk didn't care about any of that. Anyone who dared to upset Dalong would be made to wish they were dead. He sealed Xiao's father's mouth, one eye, and one ear, then left him there to fend for himself. When Mosquito saw this scene, he suddenly felt afraid. The gangster life wasn't what he had imagined. It was supposed to be all about power and glory, so why did it feel like he was living in a horror movie? What if one day he ended up being treated like that too? What would he do then? The monk noticed his worry. After taking him home, he said that tomorrow he would take Xiao's father to see a doctor. Only then did Mosquito feel a little more at ease. But who could have known that in the morning, something happened to Xiao's father. He was suffocated with water and died. Dalong was terrified and could only hope his father would step in to fix things. The five of them knelt in front of Long's father, holding basins filled with water, admitting their mistake. He looked at his son with utter disappointment. The monk couldn't stand hearing Dalong being scolded. He confessed that it was all his own fault and had nothing to do with Dalong. Long's father told them to get up, then walked over to the monk and slapped him across the face. You think you're so tough, huh? At such a young age, you already don't value human life. Since you're so capable, why don't you be the boss? As Long's father kept slapping, it turned into a full-on beating. The monk never fought back because this was Dalong's father. He didn't want to fall out with Dalong. The monk was slapped to the ground. Furious, he gritted his teeth, stood up, and glared at him. Seeing that he was still defiant, Long's father kept slapping him and even started kicking him. The monk was beaten until he bled, but he still tried to get up. Dalong begged his father to stop, but his father wanted to make an example out of him to intimidate the others. He grabbed an iron pot and beat the monk until he couldn't get up anymore. Mosquito was trembling all over with fear at the sight, but he also felt sorry for the monk. He asked himself in his heart, was joining the gang really the right choice just to avoid being bullied? The monk was sent to the hospital and remained in a coma. Mosquito waited until the monk's father arrived before getting up to go home. The monk's father's friend witnessed this and revealed a secret. Back then, Dragon Dad crippled your hand, took your territory, and now he's hurt your son. What a bastard. They didn't expect that the monk had already woken up. He went home and asked his father, was it really Dragon Dad who crippled your hand? His father didn't answer. He didn't want his son to seek revenge for him. But the monk just couldn't swallow his anger. To lay low for a while, Dragon Dad sent the 5 of them up the mountain to learn martial arts. Every day, they had to do 100 frog jumps, run 10 kilometers through the mountains, and spend the rest of the time practicing combat. Under the instructor's grueling training, the Prince gang became stronger and stronger, especially the monk, who even grabbed the instructor by the throat during sparring, as if he saw his enemy in front of him. Mosquito had also become much tougher than before, but ever since the monk was hospitalized from the beating, he had nightmares every night, dreams of Xiaodad and them fighting in the red light district, and would often go outside in the middle of the night to get some air. Tonight, he saw the monk outside smoking, his back heavy with worry. Mosquito felt that something was quietly changing. That day, while they were practicing with cold weapons, someone said, "What era is this? We're still using spears? Other gangs are all using handguns." These words happened to be overheard by Dragon Dad, who had come to pick them up from the mountain. He immediately launched into a lecture. People who use guns are cowards. If you want to make it in society, you have to rely on your fists, on fighting it out with blades. I absolutely forbid the 5 of you from using guns. After coming down the mountain, Dragon Dad hosted a welcome banquet for them. Mosquito saw Monk drinking and laughing as usual and felt that he hadn't really changed from before. Dragon Dad also invited 3 other crime bosses to join them for drinks. Mosquito was a bit confused. Crime bosses usually never associate with each other, so why were they drinking together? Monk explained, these 4 crime bosses were sworn brothers back in the day, just like us. As we grew up, everyone got their own turf, and our men would fight whenever they met. It's all for survival. But when us bosses run into each other, we always have a drink together. That's our way of honoring the brotherhood we once had.
You better be careful from now on. I'm not afraid of anything.
One of the crime bosses was called Grey Wolf. Over the years, he's been in the arms business, made a lot of money, and now he's worth at least several hundred million. Grey Wolf was very ambitious. He wanted to team up with the other 3 crime bosses to break into the arms market in Mengxia. Dragon Dad was the first to object. He had always said he'd never use a gun in his life, and then he turned around and went to teach Mosquito how to sing. Mosquito felt a father's love from Dragon Dad, and from then on, he often invited Dragon Dad out for meals. Seeing how obedient and sensible he was, Dragon Dad was also willing to teach him some life lessons. But Mosquito didn't like Grey Wolf. He was his mother's ex-boyfriend, who, over a decade ago, abandoned her and ran away when he was being hunted down. Now that he's made money and become a boss, he comes back to pester his mother, showing no sense of responsibility as a man at all. But Grey Wolf's ambition hadn't died. He still wanted to break into the arms market in Mengxia. Since Dragon Dad was unwilling, he decided to team up with the other 2 bosses. One of those crime bosses was none other than Mad Dog, Xiaodad's older brother. After Xiaodad lost his life, Mad Dog was released from prison. Determined to make Dragon Dad pay, he agreed to join Grey Wolf's arms business and managed to get hold of a batch of guns and ammunition. That night, 4 strangers came to the entrance of Dragon Dad's temple, saying they wanted to come in and pay their respects. But Dragon Dad was an old hand in the underworld. He could tell from their downcast eyes and fierce expressions that these men weren't here to worship the Bodhisattva at all. At that moment, one of the burly men suddenly drew a knife, but Dragon Dad was ready. He blocked with his left hand and thrust an incense stick into the man's chest with his right. The remaining thugs quickly closed in, and though Dragon Dad was skilled, he was outnumbered. He was stabbed in the back and wounded in the waist and abdomen. Even so, Dragon Dad still handled the situation with ease, disarming them one by one. He grabbed the last thug by the throat, and although he was stabbed again as he turned, he managed to finish off his opponent. At that moment, Mosquito was walking toward Dragon Dad while eating a sesame flatbread. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out from Dragon Dad's house. Mosquito threw away his flatbread and rushed over, only to see Dragon Dad covered in what looked like ketchup, lying lifeless on the ground. Mosquito was devastated. He pressed his hands over Dragon Dad's gunshot wound, crying and shouting,
Somebody, please, I desperately need your help right now. Please!
But the only response he got was the cold corpse in his arms. Mosquito sat on the ground, crying his heart out. The next morning, the dragon family held a funeral, but Dalong was nowhere to be seen. The monk went to look for Dalong at home and found him curled up in a corner like a frightened rabbit. The monk held him in his arms and Dalong broke down in tears. The monk also shed silent tears because he was the one who had shot and killed Dragon Dad. It turned out that in order for Mad Dog to avenge Laughing Dad, he needed an undercover agent who could get close to Dragon Dad. As it happened, the monk also had a grudge against Dragon Dad. Mad Dog first sent 4 of his men to wear Dragon Dad out, and then the monk came out to deliver the fatal blow. At the time, the monk had only one request for Mad Dog, and that was not to kill Dalong. The two of them had grown up together since childhood, and the monk's feelings for Dalong had long surpassed mere brotherhood. Now that he had killed Dragon Dad, those feelings could only be buried deep inside him. Since Dalong didn't come to the funeral, it was left to Mosquito to hold the memorial tablet and help bury Dragon Dad. Mosquito had long regarded Dragon Dad as his own father. In front of the tombstone, he kowtowed to Dragon Dad and swore to avenge him. In contrast, ever since his father was killed, Dalong had been living in a daze every day. In fact, he had always been the weakest one in the Prince Gang, but in the past, he was simply too well protected by his father. Mosquito said to him,
"If you don't kill them today, one day they'll kill you."
These were the words Monk had once said to Mosquito. Now Mosquito had completely shed his youthful innocence as a student and become a thug who no longer feared taking lives.
Still asking me who the hell I like?
Monk gave him a hard shove. Stop stirring things up here. If we don't even know who the other side is, how are we supposed to get revenge? Mosquito shoved him back and shouted loudly, "The killer is that Mad Dog."
Then why didn't anyone dare touch him?
After everyone calmed down, Monk suggested sending them to the Philippines to lay low for a while he stayed behind to investigate and gather evidence.
We can't make accusations without solid evidence.
This way, Monk could join the Mad Dog gang, become the second in command, and realize his dream of being the boss. Unexpectedly, Mosquito also wanted to stay. Monk glared at him instantly, and Mosquito glared right back without backing down. From that look onward, they could no longer be friends. But Mosquito didn't expect that a good brother of his wanted revenge even more than he did. Late at night, he secretly snuck into Mad Dog's territory to attempt an assassination, but ended up falling into their trap. He was beaten so badly he became a vegetable, lying unconscious in the hospital. After this news spread, no one in the entire Mengxia respected the Prince Gang anymore. The monk angrily scolded Mosquito. "If you hadn't said Mad Dog was the culprit, our good brother wouldn't have ended up a vegetable." These words deeply hurt Mosquito. He decided to take responsibility for his mistake and go seek revenge on Mad Dog alone. In the morning, he found Grey Wolf and made arrangements for his affairs. In case he didn't make it back, he asked Grey Wolf to take care of his mother. Grey Wolf immediately stopped him. "Your mother worked so hard to raise you. Your life belongs to her, not to you. Do you understand that?" Mosquito broke down instantly.
"I'll never be able to forget dying in my arms."
But Grey Wolf and Mad Dog are partners. Mad Dog absolutely cannot be killed. Grey Wolf told Mosquito, "Dragon Dad is already dead, but your mother still needs you to take care of her." This time Mosquito was finally persuaded and decided to go to the Philippines. Before leaving, he said goodbye to Xiaoning, the girl with the birthmark, promising her that he would definitely come back to marry her. After that, he went to say goodbye to Monk, only to see Monk walking together with Grey Wolf, and in the end, they both got into Mad Dog's car. Only then did Mosquito realize that Monk had already betrayed them, and that Grey Wolf and Mad Dog never intended to let the Prince Gang leave. If they ever came back in the future, wouldn't they still want to kill Mad Dog? But the subordinates were a bit worried. Grey Wolf had no way to explain things to Mosquito's mother, so he drove to Mosquito's house. By chance, he found a postcard in Mosquito's bedroom that had been sent back many years ago. Seeing the look in the woman's eyes, Grey Wolf finally realized that Mosquito was his own biological son. At this moment, Mosquito was saying goodbye to his brothers when he suddenly pulled out a knife and held it to Monk's throat. Dalong was stunned. "Why are you turning on your brother?" Mosquito told him not to come any closer, then questioned Monk.
Tonight, are you sending me onto the boat or sending me to my death?
Monk roared angrily. "I'm your brother. How could I ever harm you?"
There isn't even a boat, is there?
Dalong thought Mosquito must have misunderstood something and told him to put down the knife and talk things out properly. But Mosquito cried and said, "There's no misunderstanding. There isn't a boat tonight, only a setup. There's no way the three of us are making it to the Philippines. Because today I saw Monk get into Mad Dog's car. But Monk still tried to defend himself. I joined Mad Dog to protect Mengxia. Now everyone is using guns. Am I supposed to just stand by and watch others point guns at our heads and give up our territory?" As soon as he said this, Dalong suddenly realized something.
Was it you who killed my dad?
Monk couldn't answer, but Dalong insisted that he give an answer.
Was it you who killed my dad?
Before Monk could answer, Mad Dog's men burst in. Taking advantage of the chaos, Monk pulled out a small throwing dart and stabbed Mosquito in the thigh. Mosquito immediately retaliated with a knife, and the scene descended into chaos. When Monk saw that Dalong had been slashed by Mad Dog, he was instantly filled with rage and rushed over to take Mad Dog down. He then ran back to the Prince Gang's hideout, grabbed a handgun, and was about to make his escape when he saw Dalong hiding there, trembling with fear. Looking at his childhood friend, who now gazed at him with fear, Monk simply couldn't bring himself to kill him, no matter what. Just as he stepped outside, Mosquito came looking for him. By now, Mosquito was covered in wounds, but his determination for revenge kept him going, step by step. With a bang, Monk fired a shot at Mosquito. The gunshot also startled Grey Wolf, who was searching for his son. With a thud, Mosquito fell to his knees, but he still tried to grab the dagger to avenge Dragon Dad. Monk kicked the dagger away and snarled viciously.
Why didn't you get on the boat?
Why did you make me do this to you?
Monk blamed all his misfortunes on Mosquito. But Mosquito suddenly softened, opening his arms to him as if wanting to give his former good brother a hug before dying. Monk's heart melted completely. He didn't want to lose these good brothers either. Thinking he could still turn back, he crouched down and hugged Mosquito. But Mosquito stabbed him hard with his little dart. Unexpectedly, Mosquito had become even more ruthless than any of them. Monk repeated that same sentence.
If you don't kill me today, I'll kill you tomorrow.
Mosquito was in great pain at that moment. I never understood before why gangs have to fight and kill, and you're my brother, yet I have to kill you.
Because we're in the underworld, and it doesn't allow anyone to die.
But Mosquito didn't agree with him. I'm not in this for the underworld, I'm in it for friendship and loyalty. Mosquito slowly loosened his grip and told Monk that guns are weapons for the lowest of the low. What he meant was that Monk had already lost his basic principles as a person, and was no longer worthy of being his brother. But just now, when Monk opened his arms to hug Mosquito, it showed that Monk was also in it for friendship and loyalty. Monk was completely enraged and wanted to kill Mosquito, but just as he pulled the trigger, someone suddenly slashed his back. It was DeLong. At that moment, both friendship and loyalty turned into nothing but illusions. But Monk left with a smile on his face. He was finally free, no longer burdened by his father's hatred or the betrayal of his brothers. There was also a smile on Mosquito's face as he passed out. He never regretted joining the underworld. When he was first invited to join the gang, he once asked, "Why did the four of you want me to join?"
Because when 5 fingers form a fist.
The end. The film is called Fierce Hero. Question for this episode. Do you think Mosquito will leave the gang in the future? If you think he will, type 31. If you think he won't, type 32. If you're not sure, type 33. Fierce Hero was originally a word from the Pingpu language, meaning small boat. Mosquito's fate had long been determined by the rules of the underworld on this land called Fierce Hero. A small boat cannot control itself in the wind and waves, just as he can only go with the flow in the torrent of the gang world. He could only remain silent. By the way, Bull has added a new short drama channel called Bull Talk Short Dramas. Please support it, everyone. There will be great short dramas posted, and you can find the link on the homepage. This film is really good. Highly recommended for everyone. Alright, that's all for this episode. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to Bull's Bear Family. See you next time. Bye bye.